Bird, welcome back to the channel for all things fermented, brewed, and distilled. This is the fifth and final part of my Adventures Distilling Gin in India video series. So let's get to it. My boss Raul had said before I came that he wouldn't mind if I played around with some whiskey recipes as well. And I said I, of course, worked in a whiskey distillery when I was in Scotland, and I was happy to play around with some whiskey recipes while I was in India. When I got there and spoke to Shailendra, he was telling me how different Indian whiskey is to all the other whiskey in the world. So he was saying that Indian whiskey is basically a mixture of ENA, extra neutral alcohol, which in the UK a lot of times I'll call it NGS, neutral grain spirit, and this is very high ABV alcohol, around 96%. And then you take the ENA, they mix it with water, and then they mix it with a very small percentage of actual real whiskey made from grains. And then they'll mix that together. They'll add some caramel coloring to it, and they'll also add just some flavoring to it to give it that whiskey flavor. Yeah, so that's how the Indian whiskey is made. It's definitely not the same as how they do it in the UK, where we start with the grain and then we mash it, ferment it, and do the distillations and mature it in the oak barrels. That's too much time, too much equipment, too many oak barrels there. They don't do that at all. So yes, for Indian whiskey, it's mainly ENA mixed with water, mixed with caramel coloring, and a whiskey flavoring thing that they put inside. They mix it together, and that's Indian whiskey. And they'll also sometimes put in actual real whiskey, but just a very small percentage of it. They'll add it to that, mix it all together, let it sit for a bit, and then they can sell it as Indian whiskey. So that's how Indian whiskey is predominantly made, and it can be made within just 2 or 3 days, and then it's ready to drink. I didn't realize that that's how Indian whiskey was made, so it was very eye-opening to hear that process. But it makes sense when you think of how huge the population of India is. When they're selling whiskey there, it's all a numbers game. They just need to sell a big volume of it, and so that's how they do it, is making it that way. Before I got there, I had requested some malt so that I could do some whiskey experiments. That was before I understood how Indian whiskeys are made, and I thought I would maybe be doing a mash and fermenting things there, but just given the setup, that was hard to do. As well, the malt that they got me was imported from the United States, and it would be very expensive for them to actually make their own malted whiskey there. And even if the experiments went well, it would be very difficult because they'd have to import the malt from somewhere else, and it would make the product super expensive and probably outside of regular Indian consumers' price point. And so seeing how they actually make whiskey in India, I decided not to do any mashes or anything like that. What I did, it was kind of random, but I was just trying it out as an experiment, is I took the malted barley, and I had Prem toast them on the stove under an open flame, and then they were toasted to different levels of darkness, and I steeped the grains in ENA, so then the malty flavor would get into the ENA. And then I tried to mix the different ENA with the caramel coloring that they had, and with water, and with the whiskey flavoring that they had, to see if we could make something. I also had them order a jar of peanut butter flavor. So I was just there with all my little glasses of malt infused alcohol, and I had my flavorants, I had water, and I was just mixing everything together to see if I could come up with a passable whiskey product. And it wasn't bad. I mean, it was very malty. Like, you could taste the raw roasted malt flavor, but it wasn't whiskey. That was kind of a failure of an experiment, but I gave it a try, yes. The gin recipes turned out very well. We had our color changing purple gin, which was gin number 3 with the jasmine flowers. And then we had our citrus juniper forward gin, which was gin number 7. And at the end, when we were talking about scaling up the gin recipes, we discussed the Gondorage lemon peel, because we had been using fresh and then dried Gondorage lemon peel for the recipes, but we were thinking it might be a little bit too expensive, so we tried at the end to replace the Gondorage lemon peel with regular lemon peel to see if the gin would be similar or different in them. At the end, it was just Prem and Shailendra that did the final sensory analysis test, and the one with regular lemon performed better, but I do hope they will at least incorporate a little bit of the Gondorage lemon peel in the final recipe. I think the Gondorage lemon peel is really special. It really speaks to the place where the gin is made, and I hope that they keep the Gondorage lemon peel in their final recipes when they scale it up and get it ready to sell to Indian consumers. So I was in Bhubaneswar for about 18 days, and at the end they invited some of the top people in the distillery to come and try our products, and that went really well. I think I introduced them to a lot of different spirits and drinks that they'd never had before. Everyone seemed to like the ouzo, the orange cello went over well, and the gins were also well received. So I was very happy with how that meeting turned out. And here's a photo of us all at the end. They also had a farewell dinner for me, which is really nice, and here we all are. And afterwards, I decided that I'd take some of the money I earned from my first ever distilling consultation trip, and I'd go on a little trip in India since I was there already. So Rahul helped me plan a 5-day trip for myself while I was in India, and he suggested that I go to Jaipur since they have a lot of beautiful forts there. And I went there. It was very funny. On the first night I arrived in Jaipur, I was walking in the park late at night. So I met this guy the first night I got to Jaipur, and we started talking. Eventually we had coffee together. I did have dinner with him and his friend before I left Jaipur, and actually he took me back to his house to meet his mom and dad and see his house. My friends were telling me how dangerous that was to do, and I know it was dangerous, but I don't know, I felt very safe around him. He seemed like a really good guy, so that was fun. I got to see the Taj Mahal, which I've always wanted to go see, and it does live up to all of the hype. It's absolutely glorious to see in person. If you ever get the opportunity to see the Taj Mahal, I highly recommend it. After seeing the Taj Mahal, I went to Delhi and then took the flight from Delhi back to Canada, and that was the end of my big Indian distilling adventure. So I hope you enjoyed coming with me on my big distilling adventure in India. It was very exciting as it was the first international distilling consultation trip that I've been on, and hopefully I'll have some more in the future. Well, that's all for now. I'll see you in another video. But in the meantime, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. This is Bluebird, sending good vibes your way. I'll see you next time.